back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad that you're joining us for our show this night. We're always happy for people like you, people that are interested in what's happening in our cities. Because it is important for good government that there be a flow of ideas back and forth between the city council and mayor, the staff of the city, and most importantly you, the residents that live there. So we're glad that you're interested in what's happening. And if you haven't watched our show before, each week we'll have someone on from one of the 9 cities in CCX's viewing area to tell us about the current projects and current areas that that city is dealing with, and kind of bring you up to date and prepare you if something is going to need your vote. So we hope that you will keep in contact with the people in your city, and if it's your city that's on that night, copy down the email and the phone number, because our counselors and the mayors do want to hear from you. You can keep track and feed in your information on parts of the city that are important to you. We're going to be looking into the areas of development and redevelopment in our cities. We have 9 cities in CCX's viewing area, and the cities that are farthest to the west, Brooklyn Park, Maple Grove, Plymouth, are all ones that have plots of land that have had nothing built on it. So they're going to need to develop that property. Our inner cities, the Golden Valley, New Hope, Crystal, Robbinsdale, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, have most, if not all, of their land built up or developed. So if they're going to be doing any work to change what's happening there, they're going to be doing redevelopment of the property. They might need to combine segments of property together so it'll be attractive to builders. They might be needing to tear down a building that's getting a little old and a little blighted. So they're going to be in a different kind of process, but both of them will end up with new businesses and new taxes coming into the community. What happens and what's built in any particular part of your city comes out of your city's comprehensive plan. That plan was redone last year, so it's starting in 2020, and in 2020 to 2030, it's a 10-year period. All kinds of different aspects of your city there's planning going forwards, from the financing to the recreation to the development or redevelopment in your city. But the comprehensive plan will show you what is planned for any particular part of the city, where they're planning for condominiums, or where they're planning for single-family housing, or where they're planning for business or industrial. It is a good tool to use if you're looking for a home and you're wondering what's going to happen to that field over there or with that across the street from me. And if you look at the city's comprehensive plan, that will give you a good idea. It is available on your city's website. Once the city has some property, they may buy the property and develop it themselves, like where they put in a library a while back out in Maple Grove. The library had to buy the property and also work it through. The city might buy property to work on because it helps with the whole development process. And the city will use different tools to finance it. They might use bonding, they might use tax increment financing, and they might look for grants and that type of thing. Or the builder will need to come up with financing before the project can go forward, which happens sometimes, that they get ideas for a project, put it together, and it takes a while before they can put the financing together. But the city has, particularly the older cities, have the option of tax increment financing to help attract businesses to come and build in their community. Tax increment financing is a process whereby currently the land with the old broken down building gets taxes of, let's say, $100 a month. And after a new a new manufacturing plant was put on there, it might get taxes for $1,000 a month. So they'd have like a $900 difference each month. That money is the tax increment that can be financed, and that the amount of new taxes coming in over a period of time, maybe 5, 10, 15 years, can be used to prepare the land to make the whole process more attractive to the builder to come in. And it does allow cities to do that kind of development where they might not have been able to do it before. So you can learn more about that if you're interested in that whole process. But the city will if it's a city project, they'll start out with a request for proposals. And they might do that also on a project where they're hoping other businesses will get involved. But the request for proposal is for businesses to tell the city what they would build on that particular plot of land. And the request for proposal gives the city and the business a place to start talking. As they talk back and forth and come to something that both of them can agree on, then that project might go forward. So we'll ask you to listen to the different mayors and city council people talk about the development going on. And if you have any questions about development or redevelopment that you'd like us to do in a future show, be sure to email us or now, redevelopment, because Osseo is certainly well developed, right? So we have to talk about redevelopment. Yeah. But it's kind of a process. And right now, you don't have any big redevelopment projects, right?
Nothing in the works. Mm-hmm. You know, we're always looking at some different sites to be able to redevelop.
Right.
Because, I mean, that's, for us, that's, you know, the only option is to tear something down and build something new. You know, that we did with 5 Central, and we're looking at some other sites. And really the key is, if you look at, you know, tying in with our comp plan and everything else that we've done is, you know, really build density on the core up and down Central Avenue. That's the main street of town.
Right.
And then, you know, then soften it with single family homes, but really get more people to be able to support the businesses.
Oh, right.
You know, downtown, you know, and you know, whether that be, you know, apartments, whether it be, you know, office buildings. I mean, but just get people, you know, up and down Central Avenue.
Right, yeah, because it can't exist unless it gets enough business, right? Yep. So it's kind of a balancing thing.
Yep.
Now, can you tell us about what are some of the newest businesses that have come to Osseo?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had, you know, a number of businesses coming in town and, you know, set up shop. You know, one, I mean, obviously, one that people like is, you know, Red Savoy's Pizza.
Right,
you know, that was always kind of the thing we seemed to be lacking was a pizza joint. So,
and everybody loves pizza.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we've had that in one, you know, that I think people drive by is the building right next to Dean's Supermarket. You know, is the old Osseo Sports.
Right.
And it's going through a major renovation. And what's going on there is it's a group called Union Speed and Style. And they do auto restoration.
Oh.
You know, they're technically artisan metal workers is what they're officially classified as. But, you know, so they'll restore like very old cars and things like that. And, you know, they you know, highly regarded, and they'll be a great addition. I mean, they've restored that building and really taken the time to put and find, you know, old materials that matched original stuff.
So it ties right in.
Yeah, I mean, so they, you know, and they've just done a great job. And once it's all done, it's really going to be an asset to the city. And then the building just south of there, the 2-story one, you know, they're looking for a tenant. We've had some different groups look at it, inquire about it. But I think, you know, once they figure out, you know, a group that'll move in there, it's a great opportunity to move into right, you know, Central Avenue of Osseo.
Yeah. And then, since we have a little time left, maybe I can have you talk a little bit about what are some of the things you'd like to see growing more in Maple Grove, or are there any new areas you'd like to see be explored?
Well, I think that one of the things I want to see continue to happen in the city is we have been able to generate and bring in a lot of these med tech industries, whether they're startups or not. And I think that one of the things that we didn't have a chance to talk about tonight, but we, as our city, are working on going forward, is that we have this new entity that's looking at building sort of an office building in southern part of Maple Grove that essentially is designed for very small med tech co-working space.
Right.
So you go there, you have a very small location, you have the ability to work with others right there, sort of a place where a lot of synergy would happen with respect to ideas for new medical technologies. Another entity that really does that today is Teleflex. It's a company that has expanded in Maple Grove a lot. We just opened their new facility, and it's amazing how their innovation center is there now. And they essentially, what they do is they take in mainly doctors who have an idea about a new concept or technology that they'd like to see done, and essentially they take you in for 2-3 days. They work you through their system, and the idea is that they have a prototype when you leave. And so I know that they talk about how when we did the grand opening, they just had 2 doctors there from South Korea who essentially came to their facility with their idea on a napkin, an actual napkin, and they worked through 2 different days, and those doctors left with a prototype of a new type of stent catheter system that they wanted to test and try in South Korea.
That's kind of cool.
It's you think about how innovative that is and how wonderful that is as far as advancing medical technology quickly. And so there's a lot of those type of entities in Maple Grove, and as those type of entities expand, we'll see a lot of growth. We'll see a lot of new high-tech jobs. And those are the type of jobs that really help your community.
Oh, definitely.
So those are some of the exciting things that are happening that we really didn't get a chance to talk about with respect to what I'd like to see continue to happen.
And we still have a little more time if you want to speculate on some other areas.
Oh, we certainly could. I think that one of the things that we're going to really try to work on in the city is sort of a more full completion of some of the roads that we have. And I think that that's one of the things that we want to try and stress. We have a need for expansion of certain roads in our city. A good example is County Road 101 out on the west side. We have an interchange at Jefferson Highway and Elm Creek Boulevard, or 169 on the east side of Maple Grove, that need to be expanded and really need, in those areas those are county roads, really, county intersections, state intersections, and so we really need some support and help from the county on those projects because, we have a booming western part of the city. Corcoran's booming, Dayton's booming. County Road 101 is going to be completely clogged. And it's just what's going to happen. The Brockton interchange is going to be open in the not too distant future up off 94 just north of our city, off of County Road 101. They're going to start building that this spring. And so you start looking at all the new housing that's being brought in, and you have the old, well, I'll call the old country 2-lane roads. It's not a 2-lane road anymore. It's a road that needs to be 4 lanes. It's just like the intersection at 169 and Elm Creek Boulevard needs to be redone so that as we expand in that gravel mining area, get all those new jobs there, they have to be able to get on and off the freeway. And I think that's one of the things that we as a city really are trying to focus on going forward, as well as how do we get the funding, how do we get the commitment to build these really necessary roads. I-94, in the northwest suburbs is the highest freight trafficked road in the state. We have huge facilities in Maple Grove, Brooklyn Park, Dayton, that really relate to transportation of product, whether it's FedEx, King Solution, UPS, all those different facilities are here. We have Amazon facilities here, and we need to get materials to and from the businesses. And so, we need to continue to focus on how those roads can be built so that they're efficient and effective.
And keep your eye out for any new ideas that help in that process.
Well, I think that one of the things that's important is that, when they look at that, how do we deal with the situations where there are log jams? There are the
Backups.
choke points that happen all the time.
Right.
I mean, because when you develop roads, you realize that there are simply places in your system where the backups always happen.
Yeah.
And so how do we address those choke points so that, we get rid of that choke point? I suppose it may result in another choke point someplace else, but, as you improve that system, it works better for the average person. And, there's nothing worse than having to spend your life sitting in traffic.
Right.
And so it's good if the average person can spend more time at home and less time on the road sitting there. So, some of those things that relate to transportation and traffic
are important. Now you have your own bus system.
We have our own transit system, and that's another thing that we've worked on improving to make sure it's really efficient and effective. We have a very good bus rider system. It's a very effective, commute to and from downtown Minneapolis. We've tried some alternative, suburb to suburb commuting as well, but that just simply hasn't worked. There hasn't been the ridership.
Yeah, you tried it out maybe a year or so ago.
Yeah, a year or two ago we tried it out, and it wasn't working at all.
Not in people's heads to take the bus.
Well, and I don't think that there was enough concentration of business wherever we were going to really make it work. So that's unfortunate, but that's what it is.
So your buses mainly go to work areas, or do they go into around your city too?
They do a little bit of both.
Okay.
So we do have some collector buses that go around the city and will essentially either bring people downtown through that route, or they will bring people to one of the ramps that we have for them to then get a ride downtown.
And now let's switch over to something that there is a lot of. There is a lot of new development in Golden Valley, right? You can see it popping up all around. And I've got it divided under projects that are recently completed, some that are under development, and some that are just approved. So we'll take it in a section at a time. But maybe you can tell us about the recently completed ones, and I'll give you the title or the name of it, but when they were completed, kind of where they're located, maybe located first, and then kind of what benefits you see that project bringing to your city. One of them is Under Pressure Brewing.
Well, the city council worked with folks Under Pressure Brewing for several years before they finally opened for business. I believe they opened for business right around the first of the year. And they had kind of a soft opening that went on for a couple of weeks. Now they have a pretty strong presence on the internet. They're sharing their the food trucks that are coming there. They have trivia nights and other events. They had sword fighting or something one night recently, which I thought that pretty unusual. They started out with 3 taps. Now they're up to 20. The brewer, Lori Ertl, she's an award-winning brewer. She's won many, many awards for several of her beers. So it's a fun place to go. They've created like a library room in there using real books that they acquired from Empty the Nest, a nearby business. So sadly, I admit I haven't been there in several weeks, but it's a very nice place.
Where is it located?
It's located on across the street from the True Stone Bank, and then the old Perkins building that has now become Lat 14
so
restaurant.
Just on the
it's
other
in that
side.
long white industrial building.
I'll have to go look for it, because I knew that I've heard of it, but I didn't know exactly where it was.
Yeah, it's on the east end of that building. So, and they've got quite a large space in there. I think they intend to eventually have fair-sized events in there as well. They've got an upstairs room that could accommodate fairly large events.
Yeah, food trucks are kind of a good mechanism nowadays to to put food with something else.
Yeah, to make the brewery happen, we had to pass an ordinance allowing tap rooms and breweries. We had to pass an ordinance allowing food trucks. And we also passed an ordinance allowing a distillery, because at one time, Under Pressure was going to have a distiller friend of theirs co-locate with them. Now that ultimately didn't happen, but if you're out there and you want to distill your product in Golden Valley, we're ready for you.
Come to Golden Valley. It's a good place, right?
Yeah.
And then another one, the Liberty.
Liberty Crossing, yeah, that's up at Medicine Lake Road at the north edge of our city, right at Winnetka and Medicine Lake Road. I've met some of the residents. They had an opening, a ribbon cutting, if you will, and at that event, I was able to talk to some residents. They love that place. It has they have their own dog run, so their dogs can enjoy the outdoors. And the city, the benefit to the city was this very large underground concrete storage tank for stormwater. And then they also created a stormwater pond, if you will. So that project has really contributed to stormwater management. As you know, there were a number of homes around the Decola ponds that were designated as potential for flooding in the 100-year storm, or the 1%
that we keep
storm.
getting every now and again.
They seem more frequent than that. But there's new work being done on the Decola ponds. They're being expanded. There's another pond that's going to be added on private property, on the property owned by the apartment building to the north. They have offered that land as a stormwater pond. So the underground tank at Liberty, the stormwater pond at Liberty, is working with all the Decola ponds plus that new pond. We're going to have an excellent stormwater management system.
Yeah, that's
up there.
been a long-term project to figure out what to do and how to solve that issue.
Well, yeah, there was a time when somebody said, well, why not just buy those homes? Well, we never wanted to do that. That's the neighborhood that has the pumpkin festival every fall. It's a vital, very fun and active neighborhood, and we wanted to do what we could to, to mitigate the flood issue and allow those people to continue to enjoy the neighborhood.
So has there, since they've put all that in, has there been a major flooding area or time?
Well, we're still working. I took the tour the other night of the Bassett Creek Watershed Management District. They're 50 years old this year.
Right, I saw that.
So they had a bus tour, and we visited a number of sites, including the Decola Ponds project. And we're actually making good progress on that end of town. They're over by Highway 169. The city purchased 2 homes that were just chronically flooding so frequently that and the owners were very cooperative. They were very pleased with the arrangement. We bought the homes, created a stormwater management pond there. The issue there was that the stormwater pipe that runs under 169 is smaller than it should be, so the water backs up. And it was much cheaper to buy the 2 homes and create the management pond than it would have been to put a bigger pipe under 169. So
you have to get a response that solves the problem at the least cost, right?
Yeah, you always hate to ask people to leave a neighborhood that maybe they enjoy, but like I said, they were very cooperative. So.
Okay, and I don't know how I'll say it right.
Tallow? Yeah, we just, the city council, 4 of us actually were over at Tallow on Tuesday of last week, meeting with residents, and it's a nice place. I mean, I got a tour of the place. It turns out the manager of it is a friend of one of my daughters, so he gave me a very nice tour. They got a rooftop party facility with beautiful views of downtown.
Now, where is that located?
That's on Interstate 394
Yeah,
and
that's
Highway
what I-
100.
That's what I thought.
It actually was built on surplus Minnesota Department of Transportation land that was acquired for the construction
Right.
of Interstate 394 when they determined they didn't need it all. And it wasn't super easy to get that land transferred to a private developer, but you know, it took a few years, and eventually they assembled a nice parcel of land there. I would say they cater or market primarily maybe to young singles or young professionals. They've
Right.
got a lot of amenities. They on the same site now they're building a memory care and assisted living unit. So many times I've said that one of my goals is to create a variety of housing types in Golden Valley so that a person could spend
Right.
the entire arc of their life in Golden Valley, from being the young
Right.
single professional to maybe somebody that needs assisted living and memory care. So Tallow is very nice. One of the issues that was brought up is there's inadequate parking on the surface, and we think that might be because the cost to park there's plenty of parking
Right.
below the building, but the cost to park below the building is such that many people make a decision to not
Right.
pay that and park on the surface, and then there's not adequate parking on the surface. So we'll maybe talk to the management
Sure.
there and see what can be done about that.
And the last one is Meadowbrook Elementary School did some expansion.
Yeah, that's in full swing right now. They're adding a number of classrooms, I believe, and it's occurring in 2 phases.
Okay.
Like a lot of school construction, the bulk of it occurs during the summer,
Right.
so
Right.
to not interfere with teaching activities. So this summer they're adding, I believe it's 3 classrooms, and then the next summer they'll be adding, I believe it's 3 more, as I recall. It was, and then they're taking an existing classroom and converting it into toilet rooms
sure.
that meet code. So it's a very nice improvement to the building. And in addition to that, they're doing some traffic management things.
That'd be important in the school.
In the mornings, it sometimes, there's kind of a conflict between the bicycle trail that runs
right.
by there and parents dropping off their kids in the morning. So we're adding a turn lane. And
We want to thank all the city council and mayors that took time to explain what's happening in development in their city. And there's a lot of different projects going on around our community. So it's kind of interesting to find out exactly what's going on in that lot down the street from you. And we ask you to follow along on ones that you're most interested in. And at various places along the line, there will be places for input from city residents. So take time to do that. If you take time to share your ideas and your thoughts with the projects going on in your city, because that'll make for a better project overall. We're glad that you've joined us, and we hope that you'll join us again next week. Bye.